We bounce between Plasma and Shell, between labyrinthine system menus and bare windows, often without even a minimize button, between progressive updates devoted to the obsession of customization and less pragmatic updates that rewrite entire system apps. And in the middle of all this waltz, forgive me, I've already said it, autistic, made more of extremes than remedies and balance, there's him. He was there, he's there, and most likely he'll be there. Yes, if you want a consistent, reliable, and lasting desktop experience with predictable behaviors, if you want to feel at home month after month, year after year, and simply use the computer, well, ladies and gentlemen, XFCE. While the others rush toward the future, toward dreams and ideas that sometimes clash with our expectations, XFCE simply offers you a taken-for-granted experience, almost enlightenment-like, of the concept of let's keep what we have and improve it. We're talking about reliability, consistency, a conservative desktop that, in the age of transparencies, tiling windows, and integrated automations, chooses to remain faithful to its own vision. And this, today, is an act of extreme courage. This summer I went on vacation with an old Surface Go 2, maybe from 2018. We're talking about 4 gigabytes of RAM, a machine that with Windows was practically dead. Yet, my Void Linux with XFCE surprised me. I even managed to create videos and publish them on the channel. After that experience, I reinstalled it on my main system, and I started using it again with pleasant but not surprising familiarity. Because the experience that XFCE offers, more or less, is still that of 20 years ago, and this, believe me, is a compliment. So I said to myself, let's try to convey this experience to those who would like to approach this desktop environment. Let's show a general overview and some, in quotes, tricks to make the experience more pleasant. And to those who tell me there's nothing you like, I can answer, you're wrong. There is something I like, very much so, and it's called XFCE. But that doesn't mean I don't like GNOME or KDE. You see, this cheap binarism is pathetic, superficial, like mainstream puppets. Intelligent people look at things in their complexity and know that sometimes things are much more complex than they seem and much simpler than they appear complicated. I don't hate GNOME, I don't hate KDE. It's not that binary. And yes, I could also make a video about the things I don't like about XFCE, but not today. Today, I love XFCE overall, and I want to make you enjoy it too. At first launch, sure, it looks pretty bad. That bar, made that way, I don't like, so I eliminate it or customize it as soon as possible. Yes, because if you want a pure and raw out-of-the-box experience, install GNOME and use it. Here, you have to work on it a bit, but these are small refinements. This is the beauty of it. And it's not certain that what I don't like, you won't like. The bar can be moved and customized in various ways. First of all, I want to say that it doesn't take a genius to create a control system, and we have plenty of geniuses, especially in KDE. Here, this is the control center. It's an archetype. It works. And all the variants that try to change it just for the sake of changing it are merely compromises, sometimes done well, as in GNOME, sometimes very badly, as in KDE. This control center is perfect. There are no loopholes or shortcuts here. Everything is accessible, immediate, and organized. There's no need to reinvent the wheel. XFCE is an environment that doesn't impose anything on you. It lets you build your digital space calmly, logically, and consistently. It's lightweight, scalable, and incredibly adaptable. It can run on an old virtual machine as well as on a modern workstation. But above all, it's one of the few desktops left that don't try to please you. They let you choose, and this freedom today is worth gold. Let's start with what, more than anything else, defines the experience of a desktop: the menu. XFCE's classic menu is simple, intuitive, linear. It does its job, and that's already a rare quality, but it can be improved. First of all, if you have multiple desktop environments installed on the same system, you'll notice that in the XFCE menu, all applications appear, even those belonging to other desktops. This happens because XFCE indiscriminately reads all .desktop files present in the system. And then there's a second thing I don't like. For some reason, by default in the menu, we find both the system settings entry and all the individual sub-entries contained in the control center, listed one by one. This, honestly, weighs down the menu and ruins its visual cleanliness. I prefer to have a single entry that opens the complete settings panel, not 20 duplicate entries that all do the same thing. For this reason, I install MenuLibre, a small graphical editor that allows you to customize and clean up the menu in a few minutes. With sudo apt install MenuLibre, you can open it and start modifying categories, adding new entries, and above all, removing useless or redundant ones. I usually create a more essential structure. I remove duplicate sub-entries, unify apps by category, and maybe add a personal section where I collect the tools I use most often. The result is a much more organized, tough, consistent, and functional menu, exactly as XFCE deserves to be. But we can also go a bit further. Instead of the classic menu, in fact, we can install the Whisker Menu, which is now the default menu in many XFCE-based distributions. It's easily installed with sudo apt install XFCE for Whisker Menu plugin, or with the equivalent package in your distribution. Once installed, right-click on the bar, choose Add New Items, look for Whisker Menu and add it to the panel, perhaps in place of the traditional one. You'll thus get a more modern experience, more similar to that of Windows or KDE. A menu with integrated search bar, recent applications, favorites, and organized categories. It's a small change, but it makes a big difference. Everything becomes more immediate, more fluid, and above all, more natural in daily use. For me, this is the point where XFCE stops looking like a desktop from the past and starts behaving like a current, clean, and precise system without losing any of its original lightness. The panel is the backbone of XFCE, and it's infinitely malleable. I personally prefer with XFCE a configuration without a double panel, but you can have more than one. One at the top with fixed apps in the menu, one at the bottom with open windows, and maybe a third, thin, lateral one with your favorite launchers. With right-click, Panel Preferences, you'll find every possible option: size, position, transparency, behavior. Activate Auto Hide or IntelliHide to maximize screen space. XFCE disappears when not needed and reappears only when you look for it. Speaking of docks, XFCE has a little gem, the Docklike Plugin. It's an extension that transforms the taskbar into a modern dock with grouped icons and activity indicators. Perfect for those who prefer a cleaner, more dynamic look without sacrificing lightness. To install it, just one command is enough. Once done, right-click on the panel, add new items, search for Docklike, and add it. You can replace the traditional window list or keep both. Each icon represents a running application, and with a right-click, you can pin it, close it, or open new instances. It's responsive, smooth, and perfectly integrated with the XFCE panel. No useless effects, just pure functionality. In XFCE, everything is designed for speed and predictability. You don't need to be a geek to get an efficient workflow. You just need to know a few key settings. Keyboard shortcuts are the heart of this environment, but on Debian, many are not active by default. You can create or reactivate them from Settings, Keyboard, Custom Shortcuts. I, for example, add Ctrl-Alt-T to open the terminal, Super-D to show the desktop, Super to open the Whisker menu. Small things, but they completely change the work rhythm. The window manager, XFWM4, is one of XFCE's strengths. From Settings, Window Manager, Keyboard, you can manage integrated shortcuts like Alt-Tab to switch between windows, Ctrl-Alt-Arrow to move between workspaces, Alt-F7 to move a window, Alt-F8 to resize it. Everything is configurable, and each shortcut can be modified or removed at will. Then there's Focus, one of those functions that often go unnoticed but that radically change the experience. From Window Manager Focus, you can choose whether to activate windows with a click, like on Windows, or automatically follow the focus to the mouse movement. This second mode, called Focus Follows Mouse, is very popular with those who work with multiple windows open simultaneously. Finally, in the Advanced panel, you can activate Snapping, that is, the snapping of windows to screen edges. Check to screen borders, and XFCE will allow you to align windows perfectly without overlaps. It's not a tiling manager, but it's a very useful function to keep everything in order. From here, you can also activate moving between desktops simply by dragging the window to the edges. These are all features present in other desktops, but also here, implemented in a very simple, intuitive, and intelligent way. And all this without installing plugins, without terminal, and without writing a single line of configuration. Only XFCE in its essential simplicity, yet tremendously efficient. And if we want to go a bit further, there's an often ignored but very powerful section, Window Manager Tweaks, or Window Manager Adjustments. It's here that XFCE shows all its maturity, because every behavior, every small visual or functional detail is controllable. Let's start with the Cycling tab, the one that regulates the behavior of Alt-Tab. From here, you can decide whether to also include minimized windows, whether to show hidden ones, or even cycle them across all workspaces. I recommend leaving Include Hidden Windows and Draw Frame around selected windows while cycling active. It makes the passage between windows clearer and visually readable. Then there's the Focus section, where you can manage how XFCE reacts when a window asks for attention. The Bring window on Current Workspace setting is the most sensible. It prevents a window from taking you away to another workspace. If you work with many open apps, it's a small detail that makes a difference. In the Accessibility tab, we find instead functions that improve the physical management of windows. By activating Automatically Tile Windows when moving towards the screen edge, you can drag a window to the edge and have it automatically snap. It's a function similar to Windows tiling, and it greatly speeds up workspace organization. I also activate Use Edge Resistance instead of window snapping. This way, windows approach and feel each other without suddenly sticking, maintaining more control in movements. Then there's Workspaces, where you can refine workspace management. Use the mouse wheel on the desktop to switch workspaces, so you can scroll between areas simply with the mouse wheel, a very convenient and almost unknown function. And with Wrap Workspaces, you can make it so that once you reach the last area, you automatically return to the first, in a continuous cycle. In the Placement tab, XFCE decides where to position new windows, in the center of the screen or under the pointer. I prefer the first option, more organized, but those who work with multiple monitors can choose to always open under the mouse to save movements. Finally, the perhaps most important part, Compositor. It's here that XFCE activates visual effects, but without exaggerating. You can enable or disable Enable Display Compositing depending on whether you want more fluidity or more lightness. Personally, I leave Show Shadows under regular windows and Zoom Desktop with mouse wheel active, which allow a small zoom of the desktop and a discrete shadow that gives depth without weighing down the system. Also play with the two opacity bars to make inactive windows more transparent, an aesthetic detail that makes XFCE more modern and clean. All this in less than a megabyte of code. And it's right here that you see the soul of XFCE: simplicity, efficiency, and absolute control. Nothing else is needed. XFCE is already lightweight by itself, but it can become lightning fast. Go to Session and Startup, Application Auto Start, and disable services you don't need. Fewer processes, less RAM, more fluidity. Always prefer native applications: Thunar, Mousepad, Atril, XFburn. Avoid heavy GTK software from GNOME, which often adds superfluous libraries. The integrated compositor, XFWM, is sufficient for light transparencies and shadows. If you use another compositor, like PCOM or Compiz, you can disable it from Window Manager Compositor to avoid conflicts. On older machines, disable the Show Shadows under Dock Windows option, and you'll gain even more responsiveness. Thunar is a file manager that doesn't shout, but does everything. It has tabs, bulk rename, and can be extended with plugins like Archive Plugin for archive management or media tags to modify multimedia file metadata. The real magic, though, are the custom actions. With a few clicks, you can add commands to the context menu. For example, open terminal here, resize image, or send to USB. Every operation you do often can become an automatic action, and this transforms Thunar into a direct extension of your workflow. XFCE lives on plugins. Besides Whisker Menu and Docklike, there are the great classics: Clipman to manage the clipboard, Notes for quick notes, CPU graph, disk perf, netload for resource graphs. If you use a laptop, install XFCE4 Power Manager and XFCE4 Sensors plugin to control consumption and temperature. And then there's Genmon, the universal plugin. You can connect any bash script to it and show the result in real time in the bar. CPU temperature, server uptime, Bitcoin price, battery charge, everything you know how to write in Bash, you can see it there, under your eyes. It's the living demonstration of the XFCE philosophy: simplicity, but infinite possibilities. XFCE allows you to control every detail of your environment. You can choose whether to automatically save the session on exit or start from scratch each time. From session and startup, application auto start, you can add your scripts to set a background, start a local service, or restore custom layouts. And if something behaves badly, remember, you can always restart individual components without leaving the desktop. XFCE4 panel restart, XFWM4 replace and, or Thunar Q to restart the file daemon. No reboot, no magic, just control. Yes, XFCE can also be beautiful. I'm passionate about style and have given a common desktop touch to my XFCE, but you can transform it into macOS, into Windows 98, apply themes of all kinds. There are themes like Arc, Materia, Capuchin, and icon sets like Papyrus or Telecircle. Everything changes face. Add some transparency, set a neutral or geometric wallpaper, disable superfluous effects, and you'll get an elegant, consistent, and functional desktop. For high-density screens, adjust DPI and anti-aliasing in appearance, fonts, and choose a consistent GTK34 theme to avoid visual misalignments. A small technical touch, a big quality leap. XFCE handles multiple monitors with simplicity, but with some tricks you can get the most. Use XRander to apply custom scaling or to save different display profiles from Settings, Display. Lock the panels after configuring them to avoid accidental movements. And if you have displays with different DPIs, you can use per-monitor scaling via XRander or small scripts. XFCE doesn't offer native fractional scaling, but you can still adapt everything intelligently. Here XFCE shines. The Power Manager allows you to control suspension, brightness, and lid behavior. You can add scripts that, based on battery charge, automatically lower brightness or change the CPU governor to power save. XFCE is laptop-friendly, silent, stable, and with minimal consumption. For the more advanced, XFCE offers a world beneath the surface. With XFConf Query, you can read or modify any setting directly from the terminal, automating desktop configuration. As you can see, with a single command I changed the bar size, but in reality you can control every aspect: position, transparency, layout, window behavior, everything. And then there are tools like WMC Trell and XDote Tool, which allow you to take automation to the next level. With a few commands you can open, move, or resize windows, perfect for those who want to create precise setups or automatic workspaces. Brief demonstration. I open Thunar and position it exactly where I want on the screen, only from the terminal. No extensions, no graphical tools, just pure control. And for those who want to go even further, XFCE can be literally cloned. All settings are saved in XML files inside. Just copy them to another machine, restart the panel, and you'll find yourself with the same environment, the same layout, the same shortcuts. In other words, you can replicate your XFCE in a few seconds anywhere. A desktop that not only works, but truly belongs to you. XFCE is reliable, but if something breaks, it's fixed in a moment. Delete the session cache, restart the components, and everything goes back to its place. You can check the logs from journalctl or consult.x session errors to find the culprits. And if the system becomes unstable, temporarily disable auto start and launch only the bare minimum to diagnose. XFCE is one of the easiest desktops to maintain in the long term, precisely because it hides nothing. XFCE is not flashy, it's not trendy, and it probably never will be. But it is, in the end, a small miracle of consistency. In a world where everything is fluid, hyper-customized, and at the same time impersonal, XFCE is a rarity, simple and complex at the same time. Immediate for those who just want a desktop that works, lovable for those who love to tinker, configure, perfect every detail. It's an environment that manages to unite two extremes, essentiality and depth, without ever betraying itself. Its default applications are a triumph of sobriety and efficiency. No frills, no distractions, just tools that do what they must and do it well. This is why I believe XFCE is the most credible desktop, the most suitable for those who want to switch from Windows, and the most representative of the entire Linux ecosystem. It's the one that best embodies its truest soul, that of the KISS principle: keep it simple, stupid. In the end, after all these years, XFCE continues to remind us of a simple thing: that technology doesn't always have to change to be better. Sometimes it's enough to just work and do it well.